So, with the forthcoming release on the 26th of September 2023 of Amazon Prime's three-part documentary, The Fake Sheikh, about Rupert Murdoch's disgraced journalist Mazher Mahmood, formerly of the News of the World and The Sun on Sunday, who was sensationally exposed in July 2014 when the trial of British pop star Talisa Kontos-Stavlos collapsed, when it was uncovered that Mahmood and his driver Alan Smith had conspired together to tamper with evidence, and they got charged with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, and ultimately Mahmood was jailed. But that, remember, he wasn't jailed until 2016, based on a story collapsing in court when the judge Alistair McCreath uncovered Mahmood's lies in 2014. But we can go back to 1994, and it begs the question: did the Met Police and the Crown Prosecution Service conspire to cover up Mahmood's activities? And if so, why? I ask that question because there is evidence to prove that in 1994, the police and the Crown Prosecution Service communicated with each other and stated clearly that Mazher Mahmood should not and could not ever be considered to be a witness of truth any further after what they uncovered during a 1994 investigation. Do the maths. 94, 2004, 2014. It took another 20 years till 2014 for a judge to uncover his lies and for ultimately then Mahmood to get jailed in 2016. And yet this is a man who had a long-term history of dishonesty. As Roy Greenslade will tell you, when he was his boss in 1988, at the Times, Mahmood ended up resigning before he could be fired when it was discovered he tampered with computer rooms and information on so that he could try and cover up his tracks for publishing false information. The key here, though, is that the police and the Crown Prosecution Service both knew in 1994 that Mahmood could not and should not be considered a witness of truth. Now, that's mentioned and alluded to in my grounds of appeal that you can see at circusofthemind.net. But the documents involved are not there, but they because they were disclosed as part of the phone hacking cases going through the High Courts in England. I currently have a case running against news group newspapers for unlawful information gathering as well. Here's the thing. I've seen those documents, and they definitely knew in 1994, the police and CPS, that Mahmood could not and should not be considered a witness of truth. That was never disclosed to me or any other Mahmood victim, meaning that why not? Why was that covered up? Why weren't we told? You see, the police and the Crown Prosecution Service especially have a duty of care, a legal obligation to disclose anything that may undermine the reliability of evidence or witnesses being used by the prosecution. And at no time did they tell me or any other Mahmood victim from 1994 onwards that they knew in 1994 that he could not and should not be considered a witness of truth. What's really interesting is these documents came out in disclosures of documents released by news group newspapers to the High Court in the Mittville, the phone hacking, privacy intrusion, so-called phone hacking. It's also unlawful information gathering cases. Which begs the question, why did news group newspapers have documents of communications between the police and the Crown Prosecution Service? That question aside, the thoughts of could it have been used as compromat, or because Mahmood had bragged about having bent police officers in his pocket in the past, and as we know, Rebecca Wade, aka Brooks, has clearly stated that in the past they have paid police officers for information and leads. So again, I ask why, given that in 1994 the police and the Crown Prosecution Service clearly communicated with each other, stating that Mazher Mahmood could no longer and should no longer ever be considered a witness of truth, was that never disclosed to me or any other Mahmood victim after that? Why did they keep relying on his evidence? When you look at it, it becomes even more a stench in the room when you consider that over the years, numerous people made the assertions that they felt their drinks had been drugged or spiked. I didn't become fully aware of that until a number of years ago, when I went digging and doing research on the cases of past victims. But the fact is, the courts and CPS would have been aware of that. Why was it always swept under the carpet? It's all very odd indeed. The same as it was swept under the carpet the fact that tapes had been edited and spliced and evidence fabricated. And yet they most certainly knew this from the mid to late 90s, when other cases had collapsed because the reliability of Mahmood's recorded evidence was brought into question. So why were these things never mentioned? A massive disclosure failure by the police and the CPS, combined with cover-ups galore, make this one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in British history that needs to be dealt with. You know, when the Talisa trial collapsed in 2014, the Crown Prosecution Service said they were going to do an investigation into past cases. Now, here's the thing. Any cases that were in the works, awaiting coming to court, which included loads of footballers accused of match fixing, a DJ from Ireland and various other people, all of those were ultimately dropped in 2014 and 2015 because the Crown Prosecution Service said they could no longer rely on Mazher Mahmood as a witness of truth. If that is the case, then why did they not disclose to us that they actually knew that he could not be relied upon as a witness of truth as far back as 1994, when the police and CPS communicated with each other? Had that been disclosed to me and other victims, our cases would likely never have gone to court, or if they had, we'd have never been convicted, because the truth would have come out about how we were framed, manipulated, and basically lied about massively. The information, circusofthemind.net, and also the link that's above or below this video. Share it, please, far and wide. Ask your MP, tell your MP to lobby for Leveson Inquiry Part 2 to be reinstated, because then that would dig into what really went on. It's time to get justice for all the people lied about and their lives ruined by the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood.